Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I'm your host, Mr. Kadish. Get it right. Joining me today, as always, is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with the Feet Master himself, Matt Vader 74. How you doing,
Feet
buddy?
Master. God, you always make it weird. You always make it weird. What happens if I get it wrong?
You're the one with the foot OnlyFans, bro. I don't know if he's making it weird.
This guy has an OnlyFans for his Batman statue. Okay, that's super weird.
Accurate.
All right. So, yeah. Hi.
Yes.
What's going on? Hey, everybody.
Bad package.
Yes, bulletproof package on OnlyFans if you want to check out our Batman statue.
Yeah, you think I'm lying? I'm not. It's
there.
totally true. It's there. It's
No, Jude created the profile and she keeps it updated with new pictures of our Batman.
Can you drop the link in the description for those of us?
Oh, I will. I will take care of that right now.
I mean, just for people that don't know how to get there, you know.
Yeah.
I've never signed up for an OnlyFans.
What is it again?
It's bulletproof package.
That's right.
Yeah, and put F in the feet or F in the chat for feet for Matt Vader.
F in the feet in the chat. Okay.
Yep, F in the feet in the chat. That's just good. Speaking of which, he's here. He's queer. He's our shield against all things woke and intersectional. Our in-house Latinx, Brian from the Popcast. How you doing, buddy?
That's right. I want some more tacos. I want tacos and burritos. Thanks, man. Not bad. Good to be here. Nice to see Chris, man. I haven't seen Chris for a while.
Good to see you, Brian.
And Brian is now streaming 3 times a week over on the Popcast Unleashed. So be sure to go over there and check out his streams with his brother Shane, who is slowly becoming black-pilled as time goes on.
It's true.
Which is always fun to see his evolution over there. I guess the shill checks from Paramount are drying up. Is that
Yeah,
right?
they cut the access off. You know, no more checks coming in. So.
No more screeners.
No more screen. You know what's funny is I logged into the screener account yesterday, and we had a bunch of screeners in there. I completely, they're updating it. I don't.
Nice.
Stuff we don't watch, but you know, glad it's there.
Yes, and the god of pineapple himself, the Lord of the Shelves, OMB reviews. How you doing, Odin?
Well, you know, I was doing fine until that intro. When you again remind me of the evil that is pineapple on pizza. But otherwise, I'm doing okay. Family's in town, so things have been kind of crazy. But I'm ready to talk about some chaos in Hollywood.
Well, who isn't? You know who else is getting ready to talk about some chaos? And I'm going to introduce him here. Tom Connors Jr. from Midnight's Edge. How you doing, Tom?
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Doing good. Thank you for joining us today.
I have somebody here who has something to say about your OnlyFans.
Oh boy.
I hate to break it to you, but my crotch is not bulletproof. It is very fragile. In fact, that's why I wear extra padding there. It's not to bulge it out, just for protection. Bad time.
Right.
Bad piece. Always wear protection, ladies and gentlemen. And joining us from Film Threat headquarters, it's the man, the myth, the legend himself, Chris Gore, filmmaker extraordinaire and very insightful pop culture commentator. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. I'm still booting up. It's Saturday morning on a holiday weekend. I'm not quite awake, and there could be chaos. I'm just warning you. And also, I am a pineapple on pizza fan. Always have been.
Oh,
Me too.
If you have the right
disgusting.
kind of ham, rosemary ham, it's delicious.
Agreed.
So, Odin, my apologies in advance.
Is it
Scientific fact
You
that pineapple
Hawaiian
goes
pizza
bad the
freaks.
moment you put it on pizza, and so does the pizza. I'm telling you now.
Immediately? It's gross.
Well,
Disgusting.
I actually really like pineapple on sausage and pepperoni pizza.
It works. It works.
Why would you ruin the pizza?
It makes it better.
Exactly.
Makes it
No,
better.
get it. I
Pizza's
don't get it.
perfect with the
Savages.
I miss Odin eating pizza during FNT. Why? Not anymore. There was the pizza cam. It always made me hungry. It reminded me, hey, I should probably eat something.
Mhm.
Watch
I
all
just miss FNT.
well, there you go, Tom. Tom was on 900 shows.
Yeah.
You're like, no one knows this reference. The movie Zelig with Woody Allen. No one remembers this movie. But the point of the movie was he would show up in all kinds of things. That's Tom. Tom is the Zelig of YouTube.
Mhm.
Tom might get that reference too.
Kind of.
See? He's on every show that I watch.
Well, Chris, last time you were in Vegas, we had a private screening of your new movie,
Right.
Attack of the Show. Is that what it was called?
Attack of the Doc.
Attack of the Doc. That's right. About Attack of the Show. Sorry,
Right.
had a brain fart there. But fantastic documentary. Where can people check that out?
Well, you can go to Attack of the Doc. That's doc.com, and there are links to like where you can see it. You can buy or rent it on YouTube. You can buy it digital on Amazon. Also, the Blu-ray, which has like more than 25 hours of extras, you can get at shop.filmthreat.com. And just found out it's coming to Tubi. So if you don't want to spend any money, you can you can stream it on Tubi next month in December. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah, we had a double feature with Robert Meyer Burnett's movie and your movie back to back here in Vegas for Nerdrotics Meetup, and it was a fantastic movie. Everyone had a blast watching it. It was a lot of good nostalgia feels for people who watched G4 back in the day before Frost ruined everything.
I think it proves that when you ply people with alcohol, they'll like your movie just a little percentage better. Just a little bit. Yeah.
Bit. All right. Want to give a big shout out to everyone who's in the chat right now. Anthony, Mark, Jillian N, Wendy Hunter. Good to see you all. Gavin Blackburn, super sticker extraordinaire. Rec Films Montana, Thrasher 613, Cocho Dragon, Jillian N. Good to see you, Jillian. We have also got Hey, It's Me in HD in the chat. Sandy Kumari is there. Fluffy Panda. We also have Shorty Short. And I already said Wendy Hunter. We got Danny's mom, Penny, in the chat, as usual. Dennis Wright. Good to see you, Dennis. Pete Din Cat. And a bunch of other people. We also have Scotty Dub. Good to see you, Scotty. Thanks for being here today. Always good to see you. T. Stoney, Goof R35, and Mephisto is also in the chat. So, guys, thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you guys. Yes, always appreciate you guys. And then we want to give a big shout out to our top donators. So we have Mr. William Forbus still sitting pretty in the top spot. For a $500 super chat. Awesome. We also have Scotty Dub for second place and Bob Dorsey. And then, of course, can't forget AstroNerdBoy. And then we also have the Joker Voice and Mexican Iron Man, who are two of our most consistent donators. Really appreciate you guys. And our top gifters are Jillian N., who is currently in the chat, and WG is also out there. And we want to give a big shout out to the man who still contributed the most money to us overall, which is Scotty Dub. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate you guys. And with that, let's get into a couple super chats before we start the show. What do you guys say?
Sounds good.
Let's get it.
All right. So we got Jeremy Turner, a member for 5 months. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Hope you're enjoying all the members' content. What's up, Saltines? Happy Saturday to all. Yes, happy Saturday to you too, sir. And we also have Jillian N., who just gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast memberships, already hitting our goal for the day. I didn't even announce it yet. But
well, that means we have to start it over now.
Yeah. Why'd you even say that now?
Yeah. No.
Well, it's going to be 10 memberships now. So,
I'm so disappointed in you.
Fluffy Panda, member for 7 months. Thank you so much for your loyalty, Fluffy Panda. Hope you enjoy all the members' content. Hail all. Good to see you. Even, I guess, Brian.
Well, that was nice of you, mighty white of you.
Yeah. Real nice. Real nice. I think that guy's a homophobe.
Even queer guys need love too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Queer love.
Yes. Latinx love. Latinx love.
I got to start a new channel.
The Twinks love. Get it right.
Get it right.
And Gavin Blackburn for £1.99 super sticker. Thank you so much, Gavin Blackburn. You are the super sticker master. Always appreciate that. And our first big super chat of the day, Scotty Dub for $49.99. Aloha to my favorite nerd crew, and always happy to see another esteemed guest joining you chaps today, Chris Gore. It's always a pleasure to see you among the ranks of Nerdrotic and the Critical Drinker, and now finally, my beloved Salty Nerds. Yes, we're very lucky that Chris decided to slum it with us today.
Yes.
And talk about all types of dumb stuff that's happening in the world of pop culture. Really appreciate you taking the time on this holiday weekend, Chris, as always. The rest of you guys, I don't appreciate it at all. You guys just,
if I
you have to be here. You're contractually obligated.
If I remember
that much.
If I remember,
it's my free OnlyFans subscription to the Bulletproof package. I get it.
Yes.
I can't.
What were you going to say, Matt?
Said if I remember correctly, Chris was one of the first people to take advantage of our new studio.
Yeah,
which was
That's right.
it was
cool.
great. I'll be there in April, probably.
Hope so.
Well,
Yeah.
you're welcome to use it again if you want.
Awesome.
I know Alex had a great time running your show for you there, so
Mhm.
sure he'll line up to do it again. All right, guys. So all that is now out of the way. So let's talk a little bit about some of the news that shook up Hollywood this past week, which is that the Scream franchise has lost its 2 leading ladies, if you can believe this. So basically, news dropped that Jenna Ortega has decided not to return to the Scream franchise after her co-star Melissa Barrera was fired from the franchise for posting pro-Palestinian, anti-Jewish stuff on social media. Spyglass Entertainment basically said that,
I thought it was the other one that got fired for that.
it was Melissa Barrera who got fired
Right.
for it.
Right.
And Spyglass Entertainment said that we don't support those viewpoints, and therefore she's not going to be returning. And then in solidarity with her co-star, Jenna Ortega basically said, I'm not coming back either. But oddly enough, neither of these actresses were actually under contract to come back for the next one because they were under a 2-movie contract.
I was going to say that's not true because the real reason is she just actually finally watched the last 2 movies and decided, oh my God,
Oh
what am I
my
doing to my
God.
career?
This is a bad idea.
Yeah, but then we had this article in Variety come out, which basically said that after losing their 2 big stars, or 2 big leads, I should say, they're now scrambling to basically do a full creative reboot of what they had planned for the next one. And they're desperate to get either Nev Campbell or Patrick Dempsey to reprise their roles from the previous movies.
So they're basically doing what they should have done in the first place.
Essentially, I know that they've been really trying hard to get Nev Campbell back, and but they just didn't want to pay her. So that's been kind of a stalemate. But now that they've lost these other 2, maybe they have some extra funds for
Well, that's
that.
because Nev Campbell was useless in the last Scream she was in.
This is true. But Tom, you seem to have a lot of passion about this topic. So why don't
I
we go to
fucking
you?
hate these movies, man.
I love
What
movies.
what do you think of this development?
Chris, what'd you say?
I said I love the Scream movies. I think they're fun.
The first one.
If you're a fan of horror, they're really fun films.
Yeah,
And look,
yeah.
I'm not going to
I
sit
like-
here and tell you they're great. The quality of them varies, but the concept
Sure.
is really fun. I thought the last Scream movie was different and fun. Takes place in New York, so I enjoyed it. I'm not going to sit here and it's not the best. It's not among even the best horror films of the year for sure. It's not, but
But it's different. It's self-reflective.
yeah, and it's entertaining, and I like that sort of calling out bullshit. Basically, they have a whole conversation about how the sequels sucked in this last movie. You sold me on that, and they made fun of franchise reboots. They were effectively referencing The Last Jedi. It was awesome. Well, that
Yet you're
part-
missing that point because they actually thanked Ryan Johnson and they're blaming the fans for the problems with the franchise. Watch it again. This is the same argument I got into a couple other people with.
Yeah, well, I'm
like
not
they're-
arguing with you. I enjoyed it. It's like arguing over the flavors of ice cream.
No, there's no argument to be made here. They
Or
literally
pineapple on
blame the
pizza.
fans for the sequels,
Pineapple
man.
is pointless. You either like it or you don't.
No, you're missing my point here. Like 5 and 6 are against everything that Wes Craven did. Like they are. First of all, your main character that got booted from this franchise. Spoilers, kids. She's the daughter of one of the original killers, and they turn him into an anti-hero ghost in the last 2 movies.
Damn it, bro! I didn't watch it yet.
They're
Jeez,
fucking
spoiler.
retarded. I mean, what the hell are you talking about? And then they're like, the fans are the problems. They only respect the first movie. It's like, no, they don't. They respect continuity. That's why they didn't like The Last Jedi, because they're shitting all over the fans for not liking The Last Jedi, and that's why people can't have anything new. That's what they're saying with that movie. And then the 6th one was just dumb. It was just dumb.
Opinions of the movies aside, we're talking about her comments and how she was fired.
And I said,
not-
thank
or
God
not
she's
fired.
out of the movie because she's part of the problem. Jenna is the only reason anybody was going to see it.
That's true.
And-
Jenna Ortega
But Chris,
was
you had fun with it, right? You had fun.
Yeah, I had fun. I
Okay.
thought it was fun.
I didn't. I thought it was
the
yelling
reason
and
I
hating
didn't
it.
watch the entire series was Jenna
Just to be
Ortega.
clear, actors are morons. They're meat puppets. They
true.
say stupid shit all the time.
ASMT.
And if you think for a minute that like, oh my God, actors are saying all the stupid political shit they have for years, and they're pretty ill-informed and stupid, and that's why it's best. The best actors don't make any political statements whatsoever. They keep their politics to themselves. They don't participate, and they kind of leave it. That's fine. Here's my career. I'm making movies. My job is to entertain. So I don't pay attention. I don't even pay attention to that stuff, because to me it's like, an actor said a stupid thing. It's a Tuesday in Hollywood. Tell me something. Tell me some actual news. So here's the interesting point, and Brian, you were getting to it, is that she was fired for it. So now you've drawn the line.
That's the important part. Yeah.
That's the important part, is that she was fired, and she was fired for a specific political opinion, which others may agree with. And I'm not going to debate the merits of that political opinion or either side of that opinion. It's just that when you start to go down that road, you start firing people like Gina Carano while you keep Pedro Pascal. Mistake. Are you firing people because they don't have the right opinions? That's
the problem.
That's the problem.
Yeah, I don't agree with her, and I think she's an idiot, just like Chris said. But you can't fire people for their political opinions. That's crazy.
Look,
even if they're retarded.
Right. I'm on this show with people who have opinions I don't agree with, and I'm on the show. And I have friends in my circle. I tweeted this a couple weeks ago. You don't have to completely 100% agree with all of your friends' opinions. You can still be friends with them.
Of course not.
That's stupid, and that's moronic, childish thinking.
So
So
Matt thinks Zendaya is attractive, and I completely disagree.
She makes every movie she's in better.
Yeah, you're wrong.
I think
Everyone.
she's like a bag of bones, and I don't know, but whatever. But that's fine. That's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We can talk about pineapple on pizza. I'm still
Pineapple on pizza, another thing.
That's a line too far. I would fire you for like.
You know what? I gotta go. I'm done with this pineapple bullshit. Okay.
All I'm saying.
I can't be out here with this pineapple apologist. Okay, I just can't.
Fine. This is having different opinions and coexisting is literally the American motto. It's we have all these things we disagree and we coexist. Yeah. Just like this bumper sticker that a lot of hypocritical people in California have on their cars.
Coexist.
Do you know what I mean? Coexist, yet they're completely unwilling to.
Every time you see that, you're like, you don't believe in that, you cocksucker. You don't.
Yeah, no one who uses that sticker on a car actually believes that thing.
Not a single
ever. I've just been surrounded by hypocrites my whole life, not my whole life, but like when I moved to California, people that don't like live the values they claim to espouse. So
Preach.
Actors saying something stupid is one thing, that's fine. But what I would have done is these actors need media training. They need media training to look at you can say all the political opinions you want. Here's the cost. You may not work in this town again.
Right.
These political opinions. Every actor thinks they're bulletproof. And I've seen it because I've been around. Look, I started doing TV in the late 90s. And, I had a career that lasted maybe about 15 years ish in their late 90s to like around 2013. I was working on and off in TV, and I've seen idiots. I've seen people, just say stupid stuff. And it's like, all right, well, whatever. But I don't care. That doesn't bug me. The company choosing to do this is going to, in the long run, be a mistake, because there are people who are on the side of that opinion. They're going to say, well, F this movie. You're taking a political stance. I think that there has to be a sea change in Hollywood where every agent, manager, and even SAG says, stop being political. There's a reason the industry as a whole has contracted by almost 50%. Wish, we haven't gotten a Wish yet. Wish is it was a check waiting to be cashed. Every Disney movie was $100 million guaranteed, if not 150 or more on Thanksgiving weekend. This thing's going to struggle to get to 30. Okay. It did terrible last night. So this has cost Disney. It's cost all these companies, because these actors aren't just going to do their job, act and shut up. And if you're going to take a political stance, take something non-offensive or simple. Right. Michelle Obama, whatever you think of her, her stance was, because every first lady has like a political cause. Her cause was, hey, eat better. I'm going to start a garden in the White House. and I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna encourage kids to exercise and eat well.
Yeah, hell as it gets.
She was the most innocuous cause you could possibly have, right?
And
Not
she still
like
messed it
from
up.
Gaza.
And she
Yeah.
still messed
They
it up.
threw her under the bus just for that, and they got rid of the garden. I mean, it's like it's so weird that I'm just tired of this immature attitude of people can't coexist and disagree. But at the same time, if you're an actor and you want to have the most fans, like I'll bring up an example. I was watching a video today of Nicolas Cage. 3 days ago, Nicolas Cage did a video on the Vanity Fair channel. Not like I don't subscribe, but it turned up because I love Nicolas Cage. And it's just him watching old scenes from movies, describing what his intention was. And I was shocked at the insight. Nicolas Cage is a guy who understands entertainment. He understands film. He's a true craftsperson. He understands the medium of cinema, and he's an actor. He's a rarity. Most actors are empty vessels. What opinion do you want me to have? Which is why they have this prevailing opinion, because I really think that 2016 broke Hollywood. It was right around there where people just divided and political. And now my soapbox, I'm just going to jump right off of it.
I remember when that was called an audio commentary.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to leave that grenade, and then you guys.
So Matt Vader 74.
Yeah.
If they cast Zendaya as the lead in Scream, would you watch it?
I might just, I've only watched the first 2 Scream movies. They were never really my thing. But Zendaya, she makes everything better.
No, she does
Like,
not.
Would be good
She makes
casting.
everything better.
That's
No,
good
I-
casting. I think it's a good.
They can't
I wanted
afford
to
her.
ask this. Don't these actors have people called publicists and agents that are supposed to, like, hey, keep your mouth shut and you'll make more money?
Yeah, what
You know,
happened to publicists?
is
that a thing anymore?
these handlers that it's like, listen, my job is to make sure you don't say stupid shit.
The problem is these handlers believe in the same stupid shit, Matt. That's the problem.
I guess,
Have
but
you
you
guys
know,
seen Fool Paradise?
it's like there's actors out there like Nicolas Cage, like Keanu Reeves. I don't know their politics, and it's very much
And that's
on
good.
purpose on their part, and I don't care what their politics are. I just want them to make movies and entertain me. When these people make that can't help but vomit stuff out of their face, it just makes us not want to watch. It costs them tickets every time they say something. So I don't get it, man. I think something like that, a publicist, they need to start making those come back in Hollywood. I don't know, whatever.
I want to throw this to Odin, because one of the kind of unspoken rules in Hollywood is that people of the Jewish faith tend to run things, because there are a lot of financiers and stuff like that.
Careful.
And well, I mean, I used to work in Hollywood. I'm sure Chris can back me up on
Stream
this
has
one.
been now.
Well,
liberal.
learning
man.
this is kind of true, though. So be
And-
careful.
He's
and-
asking me
know.
this question.
And-
I
and
mean,
He was fired immediately. So
It's not a stereotype, and so when you come out and you publicly, support people who are actively killing people of that faith, you can't expect there to not be any consequences. Do you think that this is the first salvo in seeing some backlash against all these actors who are coming out in favor of Palestine?
No, I definitely think that this is that issue that is going to cause a lot of division, because as we're seeing with the fact that you have pretty high profile, I mean, at the very least with this first Scream actress, I have no idea who she is. So when I hear that she's a star, it's like maybe of that franchise, but outside of that film, I don't know anything about her.
Right.
And so I don't think it's going to have too much of an impact, because those movies in general, though they would make their money back typically because they spent little on it, they weren't huge money makers as far as like the budgets and things like that, as far as the comparison. So I don't think that they're really losing all that much from it. But I do think that what we're going to see more so in the long term is because there's this clear line being drawn, right, of whether you are either pro-Israel or you're pro-Palestine, and there's no in between. There's no nuance, right? If you have even somewhat of an in between opinion, you're automatically labeled, by either side as being, supportive of the other, even if you're like, no, I just think that there's a lot of stuff that I don't understand, and I don't live there, and I have not lived there, and so there's certain things I just can't really have an opinion on. But the fact that you have these executives making these decisions based off of their own opinions, kind of like as Chris was saying, is setting that bad precedent right? Which we've already been seeing set with, more conservative voices being, treated the same exact way. The difference now is that you have a ton of people who are on either side. I do think there's more people who are on the pro-Israel side who are in the position of power, however, versus those that are probably in the acting class that, I hate to say working class because it's really not, but the working class of Hollywood, which would be, I think, kind of like the actors in that specific way as far as high Hollywood is concerned, where they're much more likely to be more pro-Palestine. At least that's how it seems to be. So it'll be interesting to see where in the long term this battle kind of ends at that point.
Well, I think you need to rephrase that to pro-Hamas. That's the other problem. That's the way a lot of people are seeing that.
Well, again, but even then, right? That's a viewpoint, a position that is impact. That's why for me, it's like I don't care. We shouldn't be involved in general. Like that's
I agree with you, and I also agree. I also agree with not firing people. I'm not for cancel culture, but I mean, at the end of the day, let's not pretend that Paramount made this movie because there were a bunch of fans screaming for Scream in the first place. They bought Miramax and Dimension catalog, and with it came the Scream rights. So they decided to reinvigorate a franchise that had lied dormant since Wes Craven died, right? We had not had one since 2004 or whatever it was. So, and at that point, I felt that one did enough to comment on, the problems with remakes and reboots anyway. So the newer ones didn't do anything new or cover any ground that he hadn't covered before. At the end of the day, I just hope this movie falls apart. She'll probably get hired again eventually at some point because there's plenty of people who agree with her. And there's a lot of people who are boycotting this movie now because of this whole thing. So whatever. And I agree. It's just like, why get politics involved with this shit in the first place? You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Really, I guess is the only way you can look at it.
I want to throw this to Brian. So Brian, Paramount and Spyglass are now in a situation where they're scrambling to figure out what they're going to do with this movie or franchise. Now that the two people that they kind of based the franchise around in the last two movies are no longer going to be involved in it. Do you think that they'll actually be able to pull a win out of this one?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be very hard. Before I was trying to mention something. Have you guys seen that movie with Charlie Day called Fool's Paradise? Not a great movie.
I'm one of the people who saw it in an empty theater, but yes.
That's funny. I also saw it in an empty theater. The thing is, though, it's actually a pretty good take on Hollywood. And like, even this actor didn't say a single thing. Like Charlie Day's character doesn't talk. He's not mute, but he just doesn't talk, right? Something's wrong with him, so he can't speak. He just sort of falls into all of his successes and failures. And whether you're talking or not, the system's going to chew you up. And if you're talking, it's really going to chew you up. And I think it's funny how in that movie, the star didn't want to be, didn't want to cooperate, or he died or something, and they just found some random dude on the street to replace him. I think they're going to find a couple random Zoomers with dark hair to replace these characters, and in 2 years, most of us aren't going to remember this incident.
All right, guys. So we got a couple super chats to get to real quick. Just want to give a big shout out to Salty Superstore Bob Dorsey for hitting another 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much, Bob. I know that the people in the chat appreciate that. And we've already hit our goal of 10. So now let's see if we can get 15 gifted subs during this live stream. But thank you so much, Bob. Really appreciate it. And good to see you here. Butter Biscuit 92 for $5. From putting up Hall of Fame rushing numbers to Hall of Fame rants on podcast, all hail Frank Gore.
Yeah, I'll take it. Thanks, Butter Biscuit 92.
Yeah,
and hey, it's me in HD. I see a lot of the people in the chat.
Nice.
Thanks.
And Fluffy Panda for $5. Watch Scream 1 through 5 in October. Still love 1 through 4. 5 was dumb. Random family member of Sydney shaking my head. Heard on FNT that you know who was killed on 6. Jenna's smart.
Oh yeah, let's not even talk about the character that just pops up out of nowhere, even though she died in part 4.
I like Jenna Ortega.
Yeah,
I think most of us do. Most of us do. I'm looking forward to what's Wednesday season 2. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, that's the reason they're saying she can't actually do it. And I actually believe that.
Yeah.
Because she's look at it and she's like, you ain't going to pay me enough to move my schedule around. Screw them. I think it's just a happy coincidence. I highly doubt Because if she was standing in solidarity, she would have said so.
Well, she said she wasn't coming back like months ago, right?
Well, there was already kind of like, well, this is a thing. This all happened because they had the writers and the actors strike. So this last week, when everything finally resumed, that was the whole deal. It was before the Thanksgiving holiday. They got all these deals done because Script Doctor and I kept joking that they'll get this deal done just in time so they can take the Christmas break. When he came back and told me they're not allowing them to get as much Christmas break this time because of all this done, but they had to make sure they got all these deals signed before Thanksgiving, and then after Thanksgiving, they're going to get everything set in motion for the beginning of the year. But like, yeah, so I think that was where she just saw there was a conflict, and Netflix probably was going to pay her more. And since she didn't have a contract, whoever it was that said that, I think it was you, Matt, Kadish, who said they didn't even have a contract for Beyond 2 films anyway. So that's probably why she had no obligation to.
So I don't even follow this stuff a lot. So she didn't actually say she was not coming back because of this reason?
Nope. That's what I'm
Why
saying.
the hell we even talk about it? That's speculation.
That's what I said.
Oh, there's two actors. There's two actors. There's two actors in the movie.
Yeah,
the
they
other
play
main
sisters,
actor is
but
the
yeah.
one. Yeah, they play sisters. She's the one who was basically defending Hamas and.
Yeah, I was
saying
talking about Jenna
super-
Ortega though in this case.
Right, but
In this
Jenna
case,
Ortega
though, yeah.
isn't saying anything, but she just happens to not be coming back. People are thinking that she's standing in solidarity. And the great thing about Jenna Ortega is all she has to do to win is just to shut the F up and say no.
That's what she's been doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so
She's one of
smart.
the smartest actresses in Hollywood right now. if you
There are
ask
people
me.
right now that think that that she's on their side, and there are people that think that she's on our side. It's wild. She's smart chick, man.
All right, guys. And from Dr. Fauci's prison butt, muscle, for $5. Can someone name me 3 films in the past 50 years where a communist was the true villain? Not an antagonist or a sub-captain, but a true villain.
I have to think
Captain America.
Yeah, Captain America in Civil War. He was a communist.
Well, I was talking about Red Skull, but yeah. Thanks, Kitty, for knocking all that shit over. I appreciate it.
And that's why Tom has his camera off most of the time. And he's muted. You're muted, Tom.
Half the time, yes, because he is just knocking all my shit over here. He just has 0 fucks to give. He just walks through like he owns the place.
Well, that's because he does, and you're his.
I wait on him. Exactly.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right.
All right. And Fluffy Panda for $5. I'm more surprised they fired someone pro-Palestine. Hollywood is usually in step hand in hand with DC politics. I mean, quote unquote, right people do not speak out.
Now I'm gonna come to this.
This is one of those things that's going to be kind of one of those lines, right? And I think the point has been made pretty well that a lot of people in the industry are, Jewish persuasion, let's say. And if you take one side over the other in this situation, it's going to make you look bad in their eyes. And what are you going to do? Right? This is where, look, I don't agree with the whole idea of cancel culture, but if you play stupid games, you're going to win stupid prizes sooner or later.
True.
This is what we said about everybody on both sides all this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
Yep. All right, guys. Let's talk a little bit about Star Wars. In particular, I want to bring up a tweet that Chris Gore put out, which basically said that Disney pivoting Star Wars and Marvel into girl brands is one of the worst mistakes in history. I found that to be one of the most accurate tweets I think I've seen in recent history. So, Chris, I want to throw this to you.
Sure.
What the hell is Disney thinking with trying to move away from their core audience of men and pivot 2 of the biggest franchises on the planet towards women?
Put a ticket in and make her name it gay.
Well, just to address the tweet itself, I mean, it's really just my business analysis, right? Like it's you look at it's an indisputable fact that the revenue generated by those 2 franchises has dropped. Marvel very dramatically recently with the Marvels, and Star Wars, we've seen it decline from a $2 billion movie to half that, barely crawling to $1 billion with Rise of Skywalker. No new Star Wars films on the horizon, a complete lack of excitement with fans, and Star Wars TV shows that are being spun to be successes, but we all know if you look at the numbers that they are not. So I'm just looking at it in a very cold, rational way and saying you bought 2 boy brands, you made them girl brands, because let's face it, Disney is a girl brand. Disney is a girl brand mostly focused on princesses. Okay, so So you took that and it's like, well, how do we broaden the audience for Disney? We bring in boys, which is fine. Smart move. The problem is everything that gets absorbed by Disney gets corporatized. And I think in some way, especially if you look at leadership, gets feminized. And you need that male energy. You know, when you look at, and Gary Beekler from Nerdrotic has said this often, the first Star Wars movie was about a war veteran, a trucker, and a farmer. Those are very male jobs, okay? A lot of male energy in Star Wars. And when you look at the first Star Wars, you can criticize it all you want. There's a very strong woman in there in the mix, a leader, Princess Leia, as portrayed by Carrie Fisher. And I'm telling you that a lot of that male energy started to go away. And that's a mistake. That's a huge, huge mistake. And it's all I'm doing is looking at the box office. And I've seen it like for a while, but it's just like, okay. And it was Gary Beekler, also Nerdrotic, who said in 2018, just watch, the MCU is coming. The MCU. And we're like, no, come on, Chicken Little. Well, guess who's using that term, not only in books and in stories in the trades, are now begrudgingly using the term MCU. And recently in an article in the BBC about Doctor Who saying the message, which is a critical drinker line. So these ideas now are safe to express publicly, but not only did people come after me for even uttering what I believe is an objective truth, I lost friendships over it. People that were like, it was weird. I'm like, does the truth and facts hurt? All I'm trying to do is point it out. And when you look at look, Star Wars isn't cool and Marvel is next. If you just talk to any among you who have kids or kids of a certain age, what are they into? Not Marvel anymore.
No.
Minecraft.
They're into more video games.
Five Nights at Freddy's and stuff.
Five
Yeah.
Nights at
And
Freddy's.
Harry Potter.
Tons of high school students that I teach were all like, have you seen Five Nights at Freddy's yet? Have you seen Mr. Fridays? Are you going to review it? Because they were so hyped for it.
And also, I really enjoyed Five Nights at Freddy's. I never played the video game. I've seen clips of the video game. I'm aware that it's a big merchandising. I went to a licensing convention in Vegas a few years ago, and Five Nights at Freddy's huge. And the fact that they not only went to see Five Nights at Freddy's, they saw it multiple times. Hollywood is not in touch with the zeitgeist. And even more important, Disney is not in touch with the zeitgeist. We'll talk more about that when we get to Wish. They have lost it. And one of the things about George Lucas and and Steven Spielberg, these are filmmakers who were very, very in touch with the zeitgeist. And Hollywood used to be in touch with working people, blue collar, everyday working people that would, you know what? I just want to escape from my job as a trucker or a farmer or, kicking back at the American Legion Hall, a couple of cheap $3 PBRs. I'm just going to go see a movie. I'm talking
And that's
about
why Top Gun 2 did so well.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. It's you have lost blue collar average moviegoers. Now these movies are made for elites to confirm their opinions, and they're basically, Hollywood is making movies for other people who work in Hollywood, not an audience that actually exists.
Mm-hmm.
And the movies, and this is why I look at the studio that made Sound of Freedom, because they're getting into more things. You're looking at like
The Shift
Daily
is
Wire.
coming up.
Yeah. You're looking at like Angel Studios.
Mhm.
They're just doing things that are not even like, they're not political. They're just like, we're making cartoons now. We're making like just general entertainment. They've broadened beyond religious themed movies. And my partner at Film Threat, Alan Ing, knows a lot about that. He sees all those movies. He says mostly they're not very good, but sometimes one hits. But they've lost the plot on that. And what that's done is it's shrunk the audience. Also, when you have in very casual conversation, the vilification of certain types of Americans. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing that? That is so short-sighted. And the fact that Hollywood seems righteous and virtuous and righteous to casually talk about how people who voted a certain way are horrible human beings.
Yeah, horrible.
Human beings. What are you doing? And also, to bring it all home, Gina Carano was right. She was too soon with her comment, but she was right. And all I will point to is college campuses across America. We never thought these kind of things could happen in the United States in modern day. And what she referenced, which was an Instagram, I think it was an Instagram story. I'm not as savvy as
it was a meme.
It was a meme, right? And I remember reading that and going, what's wrong with this? It's frightening. That could happen. It's happening.
That wasn't even really, let's be real here. That wasn't the reason she got canceled. She got canceled over Beep Bop Boop. That was just from something they finally found that they could make stick. That's all that was.
Yeah, that was the timing of that. And then it's like, I remember when they described what it was, then I looked at it, it's like, that doesn't even match it. It's like,
that's what I mean.
The media sources cannot be trusted that are even reporting on this stuff because they're dishonest. And that's why I hate even calling it mainstream media now. It's more like establishment media. It's going away. I mean, there are podcasts that get more views than the ratings on major television news shows. So that's over. That's over. It's pivoted, and it's how long can you basically just support it? Which tells me I have a suspicion that there are certain breaks that companies are getting, tax breaks, maybe they're being supplemented in some way to be able to get out the message. It's like the Joker, or sorry, it was Lex Luthor. If you're good at something, never do it for free.
Right.
No, that was Joker.
I want to throw.
That's right.
Yeah, I want to throw this to Odin because he's our box office expert on the panel. Where when you look at, like Chris said, objectively, when you look at how these movies have been performing, how can any studio executive sit there and be like, yes, this is the road we want to keep going down?
The only way that you can do that is if you yourself are an activist. And I think that this is something that a lot of people in our space have really been pointing to, is the fact that you have these people that maybe at some point in their life, they might have even been a somewhat competent executive, but somewhere along the way, they got influenced to such a degree where they have just let any of that know-how just slip through their mind. And now it's all about activism, because you look at the film like The Marvels and how much money this film is set to lose, how little this film is going to make in comparison to some other major whoppers. I mean, the fact that The Marvels right now is being talked about as a film that probably does not have a chance at getting anywhere close to The Flash from this past summer. And everyone was talking about how massive a flop The Flash was. The Marvels is projected to do worse. And The Marvels also is likely costing about as much, if not more. As far as what's been reported right now, it costs more. But I know that, shout out to people like Valiant Renegade, who have been finding a lot of these tax releases from the UK the year after a release to actually show you, they actually spent an extra $100 million on a film like, Doctor Strange, and a film like this or a film like that. And so I think that what we're seeing is that any person, if we took these movies as direct activities done by any regular everyday American person, where you put something out there, you put your money into something, and then you ended up losing a huge portion of that money. In fact, you just lost it all, basically. Reminds me of that South Park, video where it's like, just put your money in the bank, right? Oh yeah, we're just gonna put your money over here. Oh, it's gone.
It's gone. It's gone. It's gone.
That's exactly what's happening here. But for us, if that happened to us, guess what? We would not be able to recover, right? We would be rightly investigated or called out for losing that amount of money. But when it comes to Disney executives and other major corporations, they are just either tax write-off or, we could just get that somewhere else. It's become ridiculous. And at some point, it's got to, and I say this all the time, you have to have a movement from the stock, from the shareholders, right? The shareholders are the only ones that, if they actually came together to say, hey, we need a change to happen, really the only way that anything is ever going to happen. But even a lot of the major shareholders are of a similar mindset. So I don't know exactly when it becomes the point where the money becomes more important than the message, because right now it's all about the message.
Which, so I want to throw this to Brian real quick. So there's this notion in Hollywood that women are the prime demographic because they're the ones who spend the money, right? They're the ones who go out and shop. And so because they want to court that, they think that, the female demographic is going to be more valuable than the male demographic. But when it comes to entertainment, if you look at the MPAA reports that they put out every year, movie-going audiences are usually split 50-50 between male and female.
Sure.
But it's the men who drive the going to the theater, because women would much rather stay at home. And so when women go to the theater, it's usually on a date with their boyfriend or husband or like whatever the case may be.
Right.
And they tend to go see, kind of male oriented movies. But the same is not true on the opposite end. Where like most guys will be like, you can go see that chick flick with your girlfriend, and if they do go, it's in a smaller number because they're going out for date nights and stuff like that. And so Hollywood seems to think they seem to have this conception that trying to court women, the female demographic, to come see their movies is a winning strategy, when in reality men are really the driving force when it comes to successful films.
Right.
And you even see this with the Marvels, because the Marvels audience was something like the majority of it was men, right? But most men are staying away from that movie because they're like, oh, it's not for us. Right. So what do you think about this strategy that Hollywood seems to have based around girl brands, where it's like, okay, we need to make this more women friendly in order to get that demographic?
No, I think you're right. I think that men want to share things they love with people, and so they'll make things an event, like the new Star Wars movie's coming out. Let's get my whole family. I want my kids to see what I love. I want my wife to like what I love. Let me buy tickets for my brother-in-law, whatever. Like, let's reserve 12 seats. And I'm saying that as the guy who's done that. Like, I've literally gone and be like, yo, let's get the whole group together. We're gonna go see The Flash. Let's buy 20 seats or whatever. And I look to my right and left. There's like 3 people asleep. But I'm not doing that for these new movies. I'm not interested. No. In fact, probably for me, the next big event movie for me will be Superman Legacy. Maybe, that'll be the next thing that I get like 10 people together and we get dinner and we go and have a night.
Godzilla -1.
Hell yeah!
I can't wait.
Can't wait.
I don't know.
Brian, you disgust me.
But my thing is, like, it used to be like three or 4 times a year that I would organize giant parties of people to go watch a movie, get dinner, have drinks, whatever. And I haven't done it once this year except for The Flash, and that was ultimately a disappointment. So every single the event thing is over. Now, we did see that with Barbie and Oppenheimer, and chicks did that. I mean, the women did that. They went and made an event. The next big thing for Hollywood is event movies. You got to make it an event somehow. It's a return of something, or the start of something, or some new this or whatever. It's got to be an event.
I feel like that's all Disney does, is try to make event films, and they just don't make them well anymore. This there used to be this thing called chick flicks, right? Where people would make movies for certain demographics, and people like my wife would eat them up, right? I mean, I don't feel like they really make those movies anymore. What
Not
happened?
really.
What
Smart
happened?
TV now.
My wife just watches all those movies she watched in the theater on TV now.
Right.
Well, and it's just kind of funny you guys are getting to this point, because I brought this up this last week here. Is like the number 1 movie in 1988 isn't what you'd expect it to be, even though Who Framed Roger Rabbit came out there that year, and a bunch of other movies, Die Hard included. The biggest movie of that year was Rain Man.
Yeah.
And it also won Best Picture. They would not make Rain Man now. And if they did, it would star Joe Blow Nobody and his buddy, and it would end up on streaming, right? That movie was a vehicle for Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise to show off what they could do. And people, both men and women alike, piled into the theaters to see that movie. They don't make those kind of movies anymore. They won't. No. Right? It's the same thing with like Bros, right? We were talking about this. Chris and I were over on the morning show when Bros came out. It's like we both were in lockstep on that, because we're like, yeah, they used to make these kind of movies for $1 million, and they'd make $20-30 million easy, right? And now for some reason they're costing $30 million and only making $1 million.
It just to me
like,
it
that's
seems
the problem.
Like, to me, what I feel like's going on, and maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like all these studios are making these big $150-200 million.
Yes, it's all about
blockbuster
the superhero movies. Yeah,
but nobody's making the standard, small budget.
No, they're not.
Movies that are just in there for people to enjoy. And hopefully some of those movies catch on.
That's why
I think-
Sound of Freedom was such a big deal with people, because they hadn't seen anything like that in a few years.
Yeah. I think the last girl movie I watched, and it wasn't that long ago, was that my wife dragged me to this one about this girl who lives in the swamp. I forget the name of it. But,
Where the crawdads
Crawdads
sing.
yeah, great movie though.
Did
Great
well at the
movie.
box office.
I
too.
had a really good time, and my wife has this tendency to where she like, I watch all these stupid superhero movies with you. You're gonna go watch this with me, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna hate this movie, and I never end up hating the movie. It's crazy, but there's movies like that out there that probably deserve more tickets.
Well, there's
I don't know.
another great example of a movie from the 80s where it brought in both men and women, and it was called Witness. And it was another film that got Oscar nominations. But nowadays, that movie would go straight to Hallmark.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have Harrison Ford or anybody in it either.
Matt Vader, no one better exemplifies the forgotten Star Wars fan more than you. I remember I was there the day the realization set upon you that you were no longer a Star Wars fan.
The day I died inside.
Yes,
Yeah.
the day you died a little bit inside. And basically it was a direct result of what Chris correctly pointed out, which is that Disney changed the audience for these things and made it, as Tom loves to point out, lame and gay. So as a former Star Wars fan, like, what's your opinion on Chris's take on his analysis?
Well, he's 100% correct. They took a boys brand and turned it into a girls brand. I mean, it wasn't girls that were spending all these hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars on action figures and TIE fighters and X-Wings and all that stuff at the toy store. That was me and my friends when we were 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And again, when they started us over when I'm in my late 40s, and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to go back to the toy store and I'm going to go buy, a shit ton of Funko Pops and stuff and start my collecting up again. But they fooled us. I haven't bought a Star Wars toy in 5-6 years now. And they lost us, man. They lost us. They didn't cater to us. They took our franchise away and made it a little girl princess line. And we said, no, I can't do it. I'll still support original trilogy stuff begrudgingly if it's something really cool, but man, you don't, there's nothing with Rey on it back here. There's nothing with
I haven't even been doing that.
Kylo Ren. If there's a couple high-end pieces that I would love to get my hands on, but they're thousands of dollars and I'll probably never have them. So yeah, man, Chris was spot on with his take. They've ruined it. So
Tom, do you think that there's a way for Star Wars and Marvel to, right the ship, come back from this?
Well, yes, of course there is. But as I've been talking about, there's this thing called the final which I think we're entering finally, because it seems like all the other studios aside from Disney are really doing the best they can to do an about face right now when it comes to the woke stuff. Now Disney, on the other hand, seems to want to keep doubling down and doubling down. Marvel has more of a chance than Disney. Marvel, they can still hit the reset button at any given time, and that could possibly help them out, or they could just find a way to make what they've got work. They've still got Spider-Man, they've still got X-Men, Fantastic Four. As long as they don't screw those up, they still got a few things that are viable. Star Wars is a dead franchise walking. Let's be fucking real, especially the moment they announced Dave Filoni is now the creative head of Star Wars. This whole thing is fucked. Get ready for Sabine and Ahsoka to be shoved in everywhere historically they don't belong, because that's what he is going to do, because that's what he's done forever. It's what I've tried to warn people with from time and time again. And even if there wasn't a Dave Filoni there, the only person who probably had any shot at getting this thing back on track was Jon Favreau or somebody like him. And they're not going to let it. Kathleen Kennedy and Dave Filoni and Pablo Hidalgo are standing around Star Wars like gatekeepers like you wouldn't believe, and they're not going to let anything change or deviate their plans. Their plan is to make the Force female, and you're going to like it, by God. And that's just the way it is. They're going to just continue to go forward with this lame idea.
Put another gay-diverse woman in it. Make it more fucking lame.
That's just what we're going to keep getting, kids. I mean, it is what it is. I tried to warn people about Cowboy, and nobody listened. No, I think Marvel has more of a chance, and they just need a leader. They let James Gunn leave. They haven't brought in back anybody. And I think the whole changing things into a girls franchise, I don't think that was the initial idea. I think Disney and Bob Iger and these people had the right idea. They looked at the market. They're like, look, we've got the market cornered, like Chris said, on the girl stuff when it comes to Frozen and all those other kind of properties like that in the modern age and the classic Disney. Yes, it's very geared towards girls. So they were right to think, let's get Marvel, let's get Star Wars, let's get these things that appeal to boys. And at first, for a few years, they were doing great, especially with Marvel. When things were running fine, it was when they decided to inject the politics, right? It was when Kathleen Kennedy decided she was going to make Star Wars all about the whammons. And the same thing with the MCU, as coined by Gary over at Nerdrotic. As soon as those two events started happening, that's when the audience started turning on these things. And you guys are 100% right. The men are the driving force of all these franchises. And I've noticed this, like, name a woman's franchise besides Barbie that has had that kind of a mainstay. None of them do, because girls don't hang on to franchises and nostalgia the same way boys do, right? I think you guys were making this point earlier too. Like, girls pass down more traditional things, more familial things. Men like to their traditions are generally, like you just said. I liked Star Wars when I was a kid. There's a new Star Wars movie. We're getting the family together. We're going to go see this. It's like an event. It's like a holiday, right? I guarantee you every single holiday was made by a man, right? Because that's just the way we think. Well, you're 100% right. We make a big deal out of this stuff that we love as a kid, right? And that's why this whole industry now is here. It wasn't there when we were kids because our parents didn't have that stuff to attach to. They had Superman, King Kong, a few things, but up until they changed the law to where you could actually make toys and TV shows at the same time, we didn't have this kind of synergy. And Star Wars was one of the first big ones to do that, where you had a movie in theaters and you could actually have the toys and recreate the events that happened in the movie. Sure, you had Planet of the Apes and a couple things before that, but they were very random, right? Or they'd come out way after the fact, or with the, like, I think the Planet of the Apes stuff, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, didn't a lot of that stuff come out with the revival of the franchise, not so much its original run? So I think it was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? The whole Go Ape campaign.
I mean, they had the 5 Planet of the Apes movies. They were great. It was like almost every year there was a new Planet of the Apes movies. I didn't see the first run, but I did see it at a drive-in, all 5 movies.
But my point is like the 70s and 80s is what nurtured this idea of culture and permeating with toys and posters and comic books and
there weren't,
living beyond the movie and the show.
Well, what happened was a little quick history lesson, like comic book conventions was not a big thing. That was where the weirdos went to dress in clothes. I mean, if you really want to go back, Forrest J. Ackerman, who created Famous Monsters magazine, was the first person to cosplay. That wasn't a thing. We're talking about like when he was a kid, like in the 40s, he was like dressing up to go to a convention, and then started Famous Monsters magazine, which I bought when I was a kid. And fandom wasn't a mature thing. It wasn't a market.
Now it's an industry. Yeah,
now it's industry. It's weirdos. What's happened is, and for good or bad, and I think mostly good, normies have discovered, hey, this stuff is kind of fun. And I would even pinpoint the year, which was like 2007, when Twilight came to San Diego Comic-Con. I saw, and years previous in the 90s, you would see women at San Diego Comic-Con, but it was like a Bigfoot sighting. It was not something that was a regular occurrence. Now it is fully 50. The audience is 50% men, 50% women. That's great. But men and women still like different things. And I would argue that women love strong men in their movies. And that's why when you've emasculated the men in Marvel, when you've diminished their roles, and when you've elevated the women, you have lost not just your male fans, but also the female fans whose vaginas exploded when Chris Evans as Steve Rogers emerged from the capsule as Captain America Super Soldier. That happened. That made women. I know for a fact there are female friends of mine who are fans of Marvel because they love the beefcake. They love the shirtless.
Do you remember the outcry of Fat Thor?
Right, I was just going to say, remember how Chris Hemsworth made Thor cool? Like, who the hell knew who Thor was before that?
We never should have let women into the comic book stores.
No, Chris is right, though. The reason they liked this stuff was the same reasons not the same reasons we did, but they found things that they liked about them because of the way they were presented. And now that you've taken all those things away, they've gone away too.
It all ended when I started wearing jeans and not sweatpants to the comic book shop.
This is true.
Those women should just
women
stay in
do
the
kind of
kitchen.
ruin everything. You're right. I take that back, Matt.
All right, guys, real quick. I got 2 super chats I want to get to. The Seaman for $5. How much of this pushing the message is from ESG funding versus the people actually believing in the agenda? I think it's all ESG, personally.
I say Andre has done great, extensive videos on this stuff. So if you haven't seen him, Seaman, yet, I do suggest you check him out. And yeah, he does a great job of breaking down how this works and why the money keeps funneling in from these agenda-driven companies. And the thing is these agendas create their own industries, right? Like, I'm not going to say any names, but you can almost insert your movement here, and there's already an industry growing up around it. And we've seen where people are buying mansions instead of giving to the actual people they're supposed to, and other things like that. That's all I need to say on that part. So yeah, it's just, there's always money to be made somewhere. And until those people are cut off from that money, yeah. I mean, this is getting to the point where the studios are learning that the only one making money from this are certain agenda-driven organizations and not them. Right? It's just one of those things. And sooner or later, they're going to turn away, just like they did with China. Remember, that was the thing before the woke, was the China thing.
Yep. And we also have a $5 super chat from Eric Winberg. Happy Salty Saturday. Yes, happy Salty Saturday to you. And I also want to give a big shout out to Paulie from Latino Slant, who is in the chat. Good to see you in here, Paulie. Big friend of the show. Love his stuff. Definitely go check out. Is he still Midnight's Edge in Espanol? I believe that's his channel. But yeah, be sure to check him out, guys. Paulie's a great creator. All right, so to kind of dovetail on this basic discussion about the girl brand shift, I want to talk about some more Star Wars news, which is that it was announced that Dave Filoni is now taking over as Star Wars Chief Creative Officer. And basically this means that he's going to have final say, other than Kathleen Kennedy, in every single Star Wars TV show and movie going forward. Like, he's basically the overarching boss. What he says goes. And so no matter who they hire to write or direct or whatever, Filoni can come in and basically overrule them. And he's going to be the one kind of shepherding the Star Wars franchise going forward. And this was announced on the Hollywood Reporter. And a lot of people, there were some mixed reactions in this, because there are a lot of people who say Dave Filoni is the second coming of George Lucas. He's brilliant. He makes good Star Wars. Then there are the other people who are basically like, this guy is a Trojan horse. He's going to ruin Star Wars. He's already on the path. He's in Kathleen Kennedy's pocket. He's a yes man to her. He's a gatekeeper. He's all this other stuff. So I want to get the panel's take on this. Why don't we start with you, Odin? We forced you to watch Ahsoka because it was part of our Salty Saturday review segment. You got to see Filoni on full display in that TV show. What do you think of this decision to make Dave Filoni the chief creative officer of Lucasfilm?
Well, clearly it's a terrible decision. I come from the place where at one point in time, I do think that he had a bit more talent, or at the very least, some talent was being displayed. I'm someone where I go back to the Clone Wars series. I even go back to Rebels, and there's a lot of things that I really enjoy in both of those shows. But everything he has done in live action has not even come close to anything that he did back in the heyday, at the peak of his creative juices, as it were, when he was doing his animated stuff. And so I look at that and I think, okay, what is Star Wars mostly? Star Wars is mostly live action content. He's proven himself to not be able to handle it, and now he's the one that's going to be in charge of these different creative choices, when his own creative choices, especially in live action, have proven to be really, really poor ones, and have proven to continue to really alienate fans away from the franchise, to push further and further, more and more and more people away from having any care or any desire to know further these stories that could be so rich and could be so could be so broad. There's just so much that you can do, an entire universe, right, being built in this way. And I honestly do have that question of, does he honestly have final say? Because as we all know, Kathleen Kennedy is known and is notorious for getting involved in every single project. This reason why every single project, for the most part, has had some type of drama behind the scenes, with directors not getting along, or directors quitting halfway through, 3/4 of the way through, when essentially the entire film is done. And so I look to this and I think, okay, even if he does make a decision, could not Kathleen Kennedy just come in as the head of the studio and still come in and be like, nope, no, we're going to do this instead? And then to your point about how some people say that he seems to be kind of like a lapdog for her, I think it's at this point he is now so firmly aligned with her way of thinking that even if he makes a decision, if she wants something else, he'll just go along with it. And so, yeah, ultimately, and apparently too, I think it was Ryan RK Outpost mentioned this, saying he's essentially had this role for a long time. It's only just recently the website's been updated basically, and that he was essentially doing a lot of the same things even before the title was even given. So to me, it's like, okay, so nothing is going to change. And so we're going to continue to go in the same direction as we are already going. So Star Wars is still dead, and it's actually going to be deader than dead. It's going to be
There's a bit of a
exactly what we saw in
caveat to
Princess Bride, right? Where it's just like, oh, it's mostly dead, and now it's just fully dead.
Because everybody keeps saying his role hasn't changed. That's not totally true. Because if you actually read the interview with him, he specifically says before he wasn't involved in everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was only involved in his things. And now he's going to be involved at the inception of everything and shape the future of Star Wars. So that's what I'm saying, is like, people are overlooking that big time. It's like, no. This guy is going to be with the final decision maker aside from Carrie Beck and Kathleen Kennedy. And I agree with you, Odin. That's the problem, is he is in complete, agreement with whatever they want to do as far as making the Force female and all that business.
They got to get rid of that Carrie Beck chick.
Yeah, she's probably one of the next ones who's going to get sacrificed. But yeah.
Well, Matt, so you've had conversations with me multiple times about Dave Filoni because, you're a fan of Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff like that. And you've always said that like he'll do like 2 or 3 good episodes a season, and the rest are just like kind of boring or stock or
Well, I say,
not very good.
Yeah. What I generally say is the main storyline is usually done very well, but then he throws in all these fluff pieces that have nothing to do with the overall arc that are usually not that good. They're filler episodes. But yeah, I think Filoni, he cares for and loves Star Wars, but I just don't know if he has the right mindset to take it to a place where we want it to go. But I'm not the audience anymore, so I have no idea what they're going to do, and that's the problem. My old 53-year-old original trilogy loving but is not the target audience for these movies and the future of Star Wars. So I have no idea what he's going to do. He's capable of making it good, but I don't think he is, because he's surrounded by too many crazy people.
Well, Chris, so basically the last Star Wars property that Filoni had carte blanche on was Ahsoka, and that was widely criticized as being, as Vader pointed out, like entirely fluff. Like nothing happened in that show.
Right.
So, give us your take on this. Do you think that Dave Filoni is basically going to continue to drive Star Wars towards a place that nobody wants to see it go?
Well, a couple of quick observations. One, it is routine in big corporations to throw someone a bigger title in lieu of a pay raise. That happens, right? Like, hey, now you're this, same pay or a tiny bump in pay, but we're giving you this amazing title, right? We'll give you presumably more power. But I really think that Filoni's just being set up to take the fall, so that when they have to pull back on all these Star Wars projects that have been announced, Kathleen Kennedy could just point to him and say, well, he's in charge of Star Wars. It's not, I'm Lucasfilm. He's Star Wars. It's all, so that's part of what, just having worked at big companies and seen like people like, or even heard from friends who've worked in Hollywood at companies. And you see, it's like, I've had several friends leave Disney, and we're going to get to that when we talk about Wish, I'm sure. But yeah, Disney's going to rebrand the Force as the Flow.
Gross.
Yeah.
May the flow be with you.
Look, I think Dave Filoni is very good at making strong female characters that are, for the most part, unlikable.
Which
That's
is
what he's
exactly what Kathleen Kennedy wants. So
Yeah.
That's what he's good at. He's clearly not good at other things. And so you're going to see the things he's good at continue to push. And I think you'll see the audience continue to check out or contract, or, you know, Matt, like you and I, just like we're filled with apathy, right? Like we're just
Yeah.
filled with apathy for the franchise at this point. I mean, it was, to me, it was Kenobi was, I'm out, because you almost had me like, oh, this could be really interesting. Like
That was so bad. Oh
it
my
was,
god.
it was embarrassing bad for so
Yeah.
many reasons. Although I'm dying to see if someone will cosplay at a convention, like some father-daughter cosplay, like the dad dressed with a trench coat trying to hide the daughter and walk through the convention like nobody sees her, right?
I love how even the actress said that was stupid. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. It was hilarious. But yeah, I don't have a lot of, I mean, I lost faith anyways after Kenobi. Kenobi was sort of like the last thing I was interested in. Ahsoka, I wasn't interested in, but watched it because, well, you know, if they're gonna kill Star Wars, I'm gonna talk about it. You know, I mean, we did a whole trial based on that, right? Like, Brian, you were on there, like,
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, that we're gonna do
RK
it.
Outpost carried me through that one though.
What's weird to me is why they even called it Ahsoka to begin with, when all it was the next season of Rebels.
That's all it was. Yeah.
Well,
You know,
and that's the thing I
so-
got to try and remind people is that Dave Filoni had a lot of people help him during Clone Wars, but he had more control over Rebels
Mhm.
and stuff like that. See, that's the thing. Keep that in mind. And, you know, I don't know if they're necessarily setting him up for failure. They're probably setting up Carrie Beck to be removed, if anything, because there was another individual that nobody's talking about that had essentially the same title and same role before this that got demoted. His name was Doug Chang. And he was the guy who did all the stuff for the prequels. Like he designed all that stuff, the yellow ships, the donut ships, all that stuff is him. He designed all that stuff. For the longest time, he was in basically that role quietly. And now he's been quietly demoted. And now all of a sudden Filoni has this role. I just don't think people are paying as much attention to this as they should be, because I've been warning people for a while. This guy is coming in to try and take shit over, right? And I noticed it when all of a sudden Kathleen Kennedy was yelled at by Bob Chapek to quit messing with blood and bones and get over there and worry about Lucasfilm. And then all of a sudden Gina Carano gets fired and everything Jon Favreau had planned for the future of Star Wars went out the fucking window. It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
Something happened behind the scenes, and it was basically KK reinserting herself and then allowing Dave Filoni to run rampant through this shit is what it was. And her other pet project was the Acolyte.
Yeah, so Brian, we have a lot of kind of Star Wars stuff in the pipeline. We have the Acolyte, we've got the new Jedi Order Rey movie, which is going forward. We got Taika Waititi still developing his Star Wars film. Supposedly we got other Star Wars films in the pipeline. And now Dave Filoni is going to be able to influence all these things going forward. What's your take on this? Do you think that any of these Star Wars properties are actually going to be worth watching?
No, and I'm so over Star Wars that every single time we talk about it, I'm like mentally checking out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so beyond caring about what happens with Star Wars, and that's coming from a guy who owns the original VHS. I was a massive fan of Star Wars. I have one of those $400 lightsabers. I love Star Wars. Or I'm sorry, let me correct that. I loved Star Wars. And now I honestly can give a shit less. In fact, it's so bad that I not only not give a shit, but it actually actively annoys me that I have to talk about it like twice a week.
I feel you. And what to me the most frustrating part is that we're all at that same place. And it's not just with Star Wars. It's with Star Wars. It's with Star Trek. It's with Doctor Who. It's with any of these franchises that we grew up loving that they've just taken and completely destroyed.
I'm looking forward to the Doctor Who specials this month, though. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm lucky I never got into Doctor Who.
It's a unique thing, though. David Tennant's back for a few episodes.
I don't have to experience that soul crushing heartbreak with that franchise like everybody else does.
Oh, dude, Timeless Children was like, I remember sitting there watching it like 2:00 in the morning, being like,
Yeah.
So for like 10 minutes straight, I was speechless. I didn't know what to do.
When they destroy Red Dwarf, I'll be really pissed off.
Oh, I love Red Dwarf.
I will.
No, don't do that.
I thought I
Don't-
heard they were
Why are
doing
you
some,
even
like,
speaking that into existence, bro?
something with
Come on.
that though. Like that's the thing is, I heard they thought they were going to be doing something with that. I could. I hope I'm
No,
wrong. But,
leave it alone. Don't touch it.
like some animated prequel or something. But maybe I'm
just
thinking
wait.
something else.
The next franchise coming around is Stargate. No, that's my baby.
Oh yeah, so let's not get into that right now. 'Cause
That's
I've
my
got
baby.
Some
Don't
stuff working in the background on that shit.
don't do it.
Yeah.
That's my baby.
Tom, what do you know about the Acolyte and how Lucasfilm has been handling that?
Well, according to KK Anon, it's never been filmed. It's not real. It doesn't. It's not going to actually happen. This whole thing is part of the plan. Dave Filoni is actually part of the 4D chess to usurp KK and reinsert everything that was good about Star Wars and the Force. They're going to use, the world between worlds to reset everything. I don't know a goddamn thing about the Acolyte other than it's done, and it will be coming out one way or another because they keep threatening us with it. Keep showing us more stuff to show us that it has been filmed and it is pretty much near completion. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it in the first quarter or second quarter of next year, and I won't be watching it. I mean, I know just from the stuff that we've heard about that it's probably going to be pretty bad. It's based on the High Republic or whatever the hell that thing was called, with the geode and all that business stuff. So yeah, those books, I seen like the first one or two at Walmart, and I haven't seen one since. So I don't know if they just quit making them or just Walmart quit carrying them. So yeah, I don't know if anybody knows anything more about it, but at this point, I'm kind of like with you guys. I had a divorce with Star Wars. I did a video a long time ago. I think I've taken it down since, where I just did this whole long spiel about comparing the Star Wars franchise to a girl you met in high school and had a romance with. That's the original trilogy. And the prequels is you thought you're getting back together and you realize this shit just ain't going to work out. And the sequels, you're like, oh my God, maybe there's a chance this finally might work out. We're both mature enough now. We both want the same things. And then you realize this shit is just not going to work. And you call it quits for good. And that was my big analogy. There was
my analogy
time just didn't work.
My analogy is at this point, I'm just hate fucking Star Wars. So
yeah, you could hate fuck it once in a while.
Fucking rough.
I think I called Mando a pity fuck.
Wars down. It's fucking hate
Raw.
Star Wars.
That's funny because I think I called Mando a pity fuck. Yeah, but Obi-Wan was definitely a hate fuck. That's for sure.
Sorry.
Well, Chris, nothing embodies your take on the girl brand shift like the Acolyte, which is basically it's the feminist Star Wars taken to the extreme.
Here's what's funny is Star Wars was already feminist. Star Wars was already from the very first movie, but now it's a type of feminism which that old school feminism, totally support that. Totally support that. I've always had strong women in my life.
Yeah, equality is great. I'm cool with that.
The new feminism is anti-men. That I don't support. And the anti-men version of feminism that is current modern day feminism, which is why should I be surprised that when I put this tweet out about turning Marvel and Star Wars into girl brands, that so much hate came my way? And it's very anti-male. It's very specifically anti-white male. And I reached the point now, I'm just done dealing with stupid people. If they can't see it, I'm done dealing. I just don't have like the patience for people that can't keep up or people that have like these, they're just morons and don't see it. Look, I feel a little late to the game because I think Gary from Nerdrotic was way ahead of everybody. And, but I see it now.
I wanted to ask you, Chris,
Sure.
since you've been taking a little heat off of this, how's Alan doing after his Marvels take? Because you guys over at Film Threat have been like stirring the pot a little bit with your takes on these things, and Alan kind of got thrown to the wolves with his Marvels review. That was really interesting.
You could ask Alan yourself. I've been working with Alan since. I've known him much longer, but we've been working together professionally since 2017. About 2 years ago, I said, our YouTube channel sucks. Like, we should just do live streams twice a week, and then we'll just figure out what the show is, because we were doing separate shows. He was doing reviews, I was doing interviews, and we'd get 50 views a video. It was kind of a waste of time. And so I said, let's just start because, like, and I love, like, we don't share the same opinion. But yeah, people go after Alan, but Alan has, Alan isn't white. He can get away with probably saying a little bit more. And he even admits it. It's like, all right, fine, come at me. But he's neither of
Come
us
at me, bro.
Yeah, neither of us are any different. We've just
Yeah.
been, the same opinions. It's just now that, like, we do a show together. But the thing about Alan is he is a huge Disney fan. Not just a Disney fan. I would describe him as a Disney scholar and historian. He knows everything about the history of Walt Disney. He's been to the Walt Disney Museum. He's read books, watched documentaries. I mean, if I want to talk to a Disney person. So the fact that Alan is out and Alan is checked out, and we noticed it like really hard with Strange World. This is a couple years ago when that movie came out. Both Alan and I, this is so funny. We both went to see Strange World on Thanksgiving and sat in a theater, like literally an empty theater, separate theaters. He went in Orange County, I'm in Pasadena, and I went to see Strange World. And I thought, what the hell is this? And I even saw like a family that had kids, and they were just like, they were uncomfortable at all the, I mean, the lead character is gay in it and whatever, but in a kid's movie that you're releasing on Thanksgiving, Disney can no longer be trusted as a brand. I'll have those the whole conversation Alan and I had around that movie was, I'll decide when I have conversations with my kids about those things.
Bingo.
Not a corporation. I don't mind that it's there. I don't care. It's
Right.
fine.
I don't care either. Yeah. But it's my decision as the parent. What the hell?
It's my decision as the parent to decide when kids are ready. Like my daughter, very into horror at like 13, 14. She loved the first Alien movie. My son, not into horror as much. So my daughter, she learned who H.R. Giger is and went down this whole spiral of like Alien and loves all that stuff. But, I know my kids well to like, this is age appropriate for this. And you kind of know if you're going to show your kid an R-rated movie, you should have already seen it because you're a responsible parent. And then you can have conversations with them about it. But
Right.
yeah, no, that was like
a Disney film that's for kids, though. You have to assume it's good to go. It's for kids.
right. This is why
My decision. Right. I
Yeah,
hate
this
that
is
so
why
much.
Universal with the Minions movies and Trolls and all this, and
Mario.
that one. What's that series of movies where they sing songs? Or am I forgetting?
I think it's
Sing.
called
It's
Sing.
called Sing.
It's called
Sing.
Sing.
It's literally
Yeah.
called Sing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Those movies are actually pretty fun. I mean, they're innocuous. It's pop culture. It's they're not pushing any agenda. Disney is
Yeah.
pushing agenda, and
Right.
for them to hide behind it and say they're not. And when we get to Wish, I'll tell you some things that have
And that's another reason, Chris, why they're failing, in my opinion, because now there are parents like us where we're like, well, before we would just take our kids to any Disney movie, like, oh, let's get them in a movie.
Yeah.
Right. Now I'm like, well, now I got to watch it first. I got to look at reviews. It becomes like this chore to make sure that it's not going to like share something uncomfortable with my kid or worse. And
Right.
so what do I normally do? Let's just not do it. And
Right.
I just don't do it. I wait for it to come on streaming. I check it out and then maybe. But you know what, dude? Mario Brothers, bingo, right into it. Minions, every time. Trolls, no problem. I know those movies, right? They have not let me down yet. So I frequent those movies, but I'm no longer going to any Disney movie. It's crazy.
It's
All
hard
right,
to.
guys.
Sorry.
Well, real quick, I got some super chats I want to get to. So from Mexican Iron Man, member for 9 months, Dave promised to show the Midnight's Edge DFE mega clip.
Oh, I know what he's talking about. I can do that if I find it here quick.
And
Put a chick in it.
while Tom's looking that up, Darth Maul's lower half for €2. I want to yell at I want to yell at clouds because of Disney. Yes, I
But this
think
is
we all do.
let me okay. He might be diminishing the importance of this. If I could just, and Darth Small, thank you for supporting the channel for two something. I think was that euros, right? Was that
That's
euros?
euros, yeah.
It's euros. This is important, especially as a father to a daughter and a son. You want to pass along your pop culture. This is what's so great about having
Yep.
kids is you can re-experience movies you saw when you were a kid and recapture those feelings.
Yep.
This stuff is important. It pop culture is our culture. It's American culture. First of all, America's already being vilified. Certain types of people are being vilified and others being uplifted, which is fine to uplift others, but in an effort to diminish other types of people. Read into that what you will. And now that I can't, try and look, Lion King is the first movie my daughter and I saw in a theater together. She was very young, but I trusted Disney because of what came before, Beauty and the Beast and other films. And they in the 90s, they were on a run. They were on a run with the 2D animated, effectively their musicals, and they were a hit. I mean, like, and some of those were better than others, but this is important, and it matters because it's part of our identity. And the United States, one of our greatest exports, entertainment.
Well, not only that, it was brought up the other day that this is Disney's 100th anniversary this year, and you practically wouldn't know it because they haven't really done much to advertise that outside of that stupid little short they did.
No, this is what they've done. I should maybe save it for when we talk about.
Well, I was going to say, because I was actually going to say, like, here's the thing that I was going to point. Let me finish my thought, and then you can go ahead and pop in there with if you want. I would love to hear your thought on that, because, like, they should, instead of releasing movies like Snow White, Cinderella, Bambi, and Pinocchio to theaters for the first time in God knows what, 20 years has it been or more since the last time those movies have been in theaters? They're just quietly getting released on video again in 4K. At least the Snow White and Cinderella have. And why aren't they being put in theaters with like Steamboat Willie and a bunch of the other original Disney shorts? They should have had this all year round. Like every month should have been one of the classic Disney films with a handful of the original Mickey shorts shown before it to celebrate 100 years of Disney.
No, I haven't. Yeah, I've been going to see the Studio Ghibli films in theaters. They do this festival, and we've talked about it on Midnight's Edge. How successful these retro re-releases are coming to theaters. People being able to see Scarface or Groundhog's Day, like movies in theaters for the first time. They haven't had an opportunity. I went to see a screening of Dark Knight, 2008, The Dark Knight, and I'm in a theater with a bunch of kids in their 20s, and I was so annoyed. I'm like, they're going to talk through the movie. They're going to like, I can't believe it. And then I realized, first of all, they loved the film. They were incredibly respectful. I realized, like, oh my God, wait, this movie was released 15 years ago.
Yeah.
They were little kids and never saw The Dark Knight in a movie theater. They applauded at the end. They were just so like, it was a real movie, right? Like, and it stood in contrast to all the superhero garbage that's being released now that's completely dismissible. When Christopher Nolan put together a superhero film of substance, it's not even a superhero film. It's a crime film that happens to have a superhero coating on it, which is...
Guys, we're going to talk about Disney in 1 second. I got one more super chat to get to. We got Shorty Short for $5. I read the first High Republic book until I got to the fire-breathing dog named Cinder. LOL.
That's like third grade level shit. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we also have this video that Tom's going to play for us.
Oh
yeah,
no.
This is the super cut I put together of this was from a recent, I think it was during D23. They did an interview with KK, and I just did a super cut of her talking about Dave Filoni.
Put a ticket in, make her name it gay.
Kathleen Kennedy, for her part, hasn't really said anything more about Jon Favreau other than when he has to be name dropped alongside Dave Filoni. But him, she can't praise enough.
I think people are really excited for Dave Filoni.
And we sat down and talked with Dave about it. You know what we're seeing, and Dave talked a lot about this. Obviously, John and Dave, you know, I wouldn't do it without Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave created so much of what was in Clone Wars and Rebels. And well, that's really building toward what Dave's doing in the feature space. Certainly looking at what Dave's been doing with Ahsoka, he's, you know, what's great about Jim is he's a writer-director, much like Dave is. So that Dave is very influenced by Kurosawa and Japanese films. Dave's. So there
you go. There's the super cut for you.
That was for you, Mikey. All right, guys. So let's talk about, you know, we've already been kind of talking about Disney, but let's talk about Wish specifically and how it has completely flopped at the box office. Chris, you've been chomping at the bit to talk about this, so just go ahead. Let's have it.
Well, I have to preface this by saying I have not seen the film, and I'm not sure if I'm going to. I did have long conversation with Alan Ng on the Film Threat live stream, and there's a video on our channel that has blown up about it. And this is what I was building up to: is Alan has checked out. He's the biggest Disney fan ever. Strange World was kind of like the something's gone awry, and now he has completely checked out. What's most interesting, this review that Alan did of Wish, has blown up, and what began to happen is people are reaching out to us who worked on the movie, who both current and former employees of Disney have reached out. And I can't reveal a lot of what they've said, but these letters are detailed. And the common thread between all the letters is the activists have taken over Disney and everyone who is talented is leaving. It's shocking. We've had exchanges, and it's what they're saying is that nothing that should surprise any of us. It's just confirmation that yes, the rot is in the house. So, and also you're looking at when we began the stream, I was talking about, Wish is a Disney has this date, right? Every Thanksgiving they put out a movie and it makes over 100 million because families trust Disney and they'll go see whatever. They'll just go see it. This movie's going to struggle to make 30 million on its opening weekend. When if you look at box office of the past Thanksgiving weekend, a Disney movie coming out was a guaranteed 100 million plus. 100 million plus. They had that date. And now this thing, it's looking like, if you look at and they're probably going to combine the 5-day so that it looks like a bigger figure. Odin, you know all about that. I watch your box office report. Oh, I love when you do. Anyways, so they're going to spin it like it's a success, but this is really, this is the beginning of the end for, I don't know how they're going to continue with Pixar and Disney Animation Studios. Will they have, now that the audience and the dollars have contracted, will they combine the studios? Will they combine Pixar and Disney into one? And a lot of this is the vilification. This was the beginning of the downfall, was getting rid of John Lasseter for BS reasons. That, frankly, I would have heard the complaints of the people that complained about too many hugs, and I would have said, well, thank you very much. John Lasseter is our guy who's made us billions. We think we're going to stick with him rather than the intern who complained about John Lasseter hugging a bit too much. Look, express your personal boundaries. You don't like to be hugged. We never need to hug again. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, just go. I'm not a hugger. I'm not a hugger.
You know what's so funny? I'm really not a hugger. Honestly, I'm not a hugger. I've had female friends of mine complain, you really don't like to hug, do you? Yeah. No, I don't. I'm not a big, unless I'm intimately involved with a person, then I hug.
Well, I'm giving you a huge hug when you come over.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no kidding. Me too.
It's
I actually have a Pixar
now
story.
Every single person that meets you is going to try to hug you.
Yeah. I know. I shouldn't even say that. Anyways, all I'm saying is that John Lasseter, huge talent, and they had a process. And the process is you would have mentors. You would have these writing teams, and they used people who were younger. But there's this new thing. You should look into this. They call it reverse mentoring. It's when younger people kind of try to mentor older people. And I don't want to have some idiot. Thank you, Mecca J. I don't want to have some idiot 22-year-old try to explain to me the industry when you have no freaking experience. You haven't failed enough. And I think that's what, that's the biggest lessons for me have always come from failures.
I think
it actually leads.
My question is you said earlier about how all these people are leaving, right? My question would be, where are they going? All the people that are leaving.
They're going to work for John Lasseter.
John Lasseter.
They're going to work for John Lasseter, or they're thinking about doing their own thing. And it's they have allowed, through weak leadership, middle management, and whatnot, to allow activists to run things.
Yeah.
And it
not only that,
it shouldn't surprise you that part of the story of Wish is this magnanimous Magnifico, right, who grants wishes, and it's accidentally an anti-Marxist film. And you've got one of the I don't know, does anyone care about spoilers at all? Does anyone give crap?
No, we don't care about spoilers.
Before we get into that, can I just say something real quick? Because actually, that goes right into what I was going to say about Pixar, because we have a history with them, and I think I can back up what you're saying, Chris, 110%. Because John Lasseter was, I don't even understand why Bob Iger let this happen. John Lasseter was basically like the Ferrari he bought. He was daddy's Ferrari that was sitting in the garage. You were not allowed to touch, but yet he allowed everybody to touch it and drive it and destroy it, is what happened. Because we did a video on Pixar, and we got a little decent response out of that. And one of our writers that worked with us back then actually knew somebody who worked at Pixar, and they were trying to facilitate an interview with us with somebody there. And the word we got back was no, fuck no, because they're a misogynist, racist group. And somebody was so upset that they reached out to us, much like Chris was saying, and they explained to us what had happened behind the scenes at Pixar. And the shortest version I can tell you is basically one of the people that was involved with making Brave did not like being told by John Lasseter that their shit sucked, right? And as Chris was talking about, John has a very straightforward kind of way of doing things. Like if it don't work, they start over, right? They remade Toy Story 2 twice. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, and they did not like this idea that they had somebody who was a 30-year veteran in the industry, who was an old white man, telling them that their shit was not good enough or up to snuff. So they coordinated this whole thing behind the scenes with a bunch of these activists to get him fired. And I cannot believe that Bob Iger allowed this to happen. There is nothing to support any of the accusations that anybody made about this man. In fact, I found the most salacious one was that he was a drunk.
Well, I can confirm the drunk thing because, and I mean this as in a good way. So I knew John Lasseter back in the early 2000s. Okay. Because
please verify or deny any of this. Thank you.
Have you been hugged?
No.
Were you hugged by him?
He is I was the director of the festival director for the Sonoma Valley Film Festival. John Lasseter's on the board. It is in wine country. John Lasseter loves wine so much. He was on the board. He was the nicest guy. I went to hang out at his house. I interviewed him for an interview for the film festival. He would donate. So he loves wine so much that every movie that's
Pixar a little different than being an alcoholic, though, like a hardcore drinker.
So every movie that Pixar makes, he would do a special bottling of a magnum of wine. If you've ever seen a magnum, it's like these giant, they're comically large bottles of wine. And then they brand it like Toy Story or Toy Story 3 or whatever it is. It would have like the branding on it. And they would do this as a special edition. He donated a bunch of those to the film festival and we auctioned them off at a special event. So for 2 years, I was the director. Basically, I chose what movies played at the festival. It was a seasonal job. John Lasseter was always there. He did Q&As. I hung out with him. The nicest guy on the planet. He really liked to drink. Was he mean when he was a drunk? No, he would hug and he was nice and he would laugh and he had such a great sense of humor and he did what, he would make you feel comfortable, like you're part of this big thing. I mean, it was awesome. He was, I can't say a bad word about him.
So you enjoyed his hugs. You enjoyed his hugs. That's what I'm hearing from this.
And he really cared about the festival because it supported independent film.
Real quick, guys. I want to throw this to Odin because there's this article we have here where Disney anticipates another catastrophe as Wish opens to empty theaters, and I think that Chris mentioned at the top of the show that Wish for a Thanksgiving weekend has hugely underperformed. So, Odin, as the box office analyst, what are you hearing about this, and how does this compare to other Disney releases?
Oh, it's pretty bad. Just a bit of a comparison. So Box Office Pro, which can be hit and miss, but has been more hitting things recently. Originally, their 5-day projection for the Thanksgiving holiday for this movie was $56.3 million. Its 3-day was projected to be $37 million. It's not looking like that is going to happen in probably either case. I mean, as Chris was saying, like it's the chance of getting that far past 30 million is going to be a bit of a struggle. So I think that's already a pretty big indicator. The thing that really started to, kind of turn as far as us being able to see this even more so is how this film is doing against Napoleon. This film has lost to Napoleon. It lost on Thanksgiving Day, right? It lost on Thanksgiving Day to Napoleon. It lost again on Friday to that. And just to give you that understanding, Napoleon is a 3-hour, roughly, drama. Wish is a brand new Disney animated film that all of the kids and all of the families should be going to. Clearly, no kids, no families are really going to it, whereas a handful, like a pretty strong number of adults are going to see Napoleon. So, Napoleon's not in the best position either because it also costs a lot of money. But the fact that Wish, right, which should be making crap tons of money, right, as Chris mentioned in years past about Thanksgiving always being this massive thing, the one way that they spun this, and they spun this like 2-3 days ago, Deadline, looking at you, Tony, at Deadline, he was trying to argue, Tony, at Deadline, what he was trying to argue was, well, when you compare this to Strange World, it is just so much better. And it's like, that's all they really have is they look and say, well, this Thanksgiving is set to be one of the best on record. And oh yeah, he loves bringing up freaking Cinema Score. I cannot stand when people bring that up because
unfortunately Cinema Score is the more accurate of the bunch, but yeah.
But Cinema Score is, I know people who go to the Cinema Score screenings and they get those cards. I feel like they can weight something against to get a better score. I don't believe it all. Like
I don't believe it at all.
Yeah,
they don't release you. How many people did they survey? They never tell you. What cities, markets did they actually survey? They don't say. So they just give you a score and they're just be like, trust us. So yeah, that's why I don't buy it for it might be the most accurate, but I don't really trust it.
Compared to the other stuff out there, that's just
also guys, Cinema Score is a measure of how good the marketing is for opening day for a movie, as opposed to the quality score of the movie itself.
Yeah.
Just for fun, I pulled up the theater we all go to around here and looked at the Wish 1240 showing, which is in less than an hour. It's a 200-seat theater, and they've scored they've pre-sold like 15 seats.
Wow. Yeah, and the one last thing I'll say about the daily numbers is that so it's losing to Napoleon, again a 3-hour drama. And it's also with Trolls, which came out last weekend. Again, Wish is the brand new film. For Friday's numbers, it was only about $1 million ahead of Trolls.
Wow.
It's per theater ratio, about $200 difference. And they're in about the same number of theaters, in fact. So I think it's very, very telling that Wish is set to be a financial disaster, as been the case for all Disney.
Where do you see this legging out the weekend as far as number-wise?
Right now it's at 20 million domestic. So, I mean, realistically, we could look at it getting probably 30, 35 million domestic.
Because basically, if this movie doesn't make more than $50 million, this is Mars Needs Moms territory, because that's with inflation. Yeah. That's how much Mars Needs Moms made. Or didn't make, let's say, because it didn't make any money. And that was, as far as I know, I think that's one of Disney's biggest flops of all time, between that, Lone Ranger and John Carter, and I think all of them have been usurped by Indiana Jones and Ant-Man and the Marvels and stuff at this point as far as losing money. But I imagine this is on the level of Mars Needs Moms, because that's what I'm looking at here is 53 million with inflation. Yeah,
Tony at Deadline is saying it's going to be against Wish and Napoleon are going to be fighting for second with around $32 million. So it's going to get just maybe north of 30 million, but there's an argument to be made that maybe it doesn't even get to 30. It's bad.
Which is bad.
Yeah.
And I want to throw this to Brian real quick, because he talked about having to pre-screen Disney movies because of the politics and stuff like that for the kids. And Chris mentioned that this is actually an accidentally pro-capitalist, anti-communist message of a film, where the plot of the movie is that you have a guy who can grant wishes, and he selectively grants wishes to people. And the princess, the hero of the film, wants to just grant wishes to everyone because she doesn't think it's fair that only certain people get wishes granted, and so on and so forth. And so the idea here is that, communism good, but apparently the movie accidentally makes the case for not communism. So Brian, do you think that that's a movie that parents want to bring their kids to?
No. And I'm sorry, guys. I'm not a big believer in communism. I think the idea of it the sentiment of socialism is very, very nice. It sounds like a very cool thing for everyone to be taken care of, but it's impossible. It will never work. It will always be subject to massive levels of human corruption, and people will always suffer for it. I don't want my kids to learn at 12 years old. They don't need to know anything about that stuff right now. I will ease them into socioeconomic, issues and sexual issues and any issue that is complicated. I will I will choose when and how they learn that information.
Sounds good to me. All right, guys, we got a couple super chats I want to get to really quick from Gary G for £1.99, £1.99. Media here report Vanessa Kirby to play Sue Storm. I think she'd make a good Sue Storm, personally. I like Vanessa Kirby. But the Fantastic Four casting is just so messed up right now. I don't know what to believe.
Pedro Pascal, man. Let's go.
Yep.
It's going to be awesome.
Was it Kevin Feige who said the cast of Fantastic Four was too white? They needed to pocket up.
I don't think he said that. I think that was just somebody quoting a source. And because I was calling out well, that's kind of bullshit because all the other names they had on there weren't very diverse. Like Adam Driver and all that stuff turned it down. It's like, do they even listen to what they're saying? It's like, it doesn't even make sense. So it's just, to me, it's just, he's the first guy who said yes.
Yeah. And from 52 movies a year for $4.99. Thank you, sir. My wife is a huge Disney fan. We saw Trolls last night instead of Wish. Disney doesn't understand what they have lost already. Yeah, Disney they keep doubling down on the stuff that doesn't work.
And I keep going back to the year they decided to get involved with Florida politics. Because that, to me, was when things really started. Like, obviously, the pandemic had an impact, but to me, I think they started to lose a trove of people once that happened. Because I think that was the same year that you had Lightyear. And when Lightyear just completely fell off the map, I was like, okay, I think we're seeing something. And now, of course, ever since then, it's gotten worse and worse.
Yeah, and Chris, the interesting thing about Wish is there was zero marketing behind this movie. I don't think a lot of people even knew it was coming out.
Well, I think the marketing was terrible. They went with a sort of ethnically ambiguous lead to kind of try to satisfy. It's the typical thing of, we're going to try to satisfy everybody and we will satisfy nobody. There's a really interesting photo if you Google image Wish where you see all the main characters, and it's literally, you could just title the photo diversity because it's so generic. Whenever Disney does diversity, I feel like they always get it wrong because they go so generic. Whereas when something is organically diverse, you don't notice it. But with Disney, you really, really, really notice it. I think if this is the picture, that's it right there to the right. That photo, when you look at that, it's like, if you can highlight that picture, it's so oh my God, it's just, that photo is cringe of all these characters. If you can zoom in on it, look, it's Hal, Dario, Asha, Dahlia, Asian and snarky.
Enhance.
Oh my God, it is so, this is
Enhance.
the height of cringe.
I remember when some of this art would be considered racist back in the day, but anyway.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I mean. It's just so generic. It looks like some I don't know, just awful. Not only that, just no sort of color scheme, right? Alan did a really interesting analysis in the review of Wish on the Film Thread channel, where he went through, and Alan, I told you, is a scholar and a nerd. He went to some Disney animation camp where you go for several. Have you heard of it, Matt?
No.
Okay. Anyway, so it's this Disney animation camp where you learn about Disney, you actually draw, you learn what the key sort of concepts are that Walt Disney sort of set forth. And one of the things that they always talked about was that you want characters to be off center, because if a character is to the left or the right on the screen, you will look at what the character is looking at. It's more dynamic, or it has dynamism. And when he went through the trailer for Wish, all the characters are in the center. The center is boring. It's did any of you guys see The Fabelmans, right? The end of The Fabelmans,
yes,
with David Lynch as John Ford is saying, you see that? It's boring. You do this, it's better. And he was talking about things being off center. It's the most simple conversation about what makes a good film and what makes a bad film. Wish didn't even follow these rules. And by the way, this story of like taking over Magnifico, that's what happened behind the scenes. That's why all these people from former and current employees have reached out to me. They're saying like the story of Wish is what's happening in the industry. You've got the older, mature, white male Magnifico that is overthrown by the diversity hires effectively. That's what the story is. And then it's sort of accidentally anti-Marxist because there weren't there weren't people there to kind of hold their hands of like, look, we've been doing this for years. We know what audiences, what resonates with audiences. And clearly this movie is not resonating with audiences. Whereas Five Nights at Freddy's, which we talked about earlier, made for 25 million, is it gonna get to 200, Odin? Like, I know it's over 100.
I think it has. The last I had looked at it, because it's been a while. Let me see right now. It's over $200 million internationally.
Because people went to see it kids went to see it multiple times because they had so much fun, right? Talk about like, I don't know that Disney is even capable of, because one of the other things brought up in these emails I received is how bad Disney is at spending money. They have too much what they call middle management bloat. So it's all these people whose job is to protect their jobs, and they really aren't particularly useful. So they are just, they haven't, they're like, I swear Disney is like the US government when it comes to efficiently using capital. No, seriously. How does a movie like Wish cost 200 million? It should cost under 100, right? And they could take a risk on, I you know what? I remember seeing the Apple Dumpling Gang when I was a kid. I'm sure that movie was made for, not very much money. And it was entertaining as hell because all those live action Disney movies in that era, I'm not saying they were great movies, but they knew how to like make a low budget Kurt Russell movie. I actually have Apple Dumpling Gang. I actually have the box set. There's a box set I got from Disney. Yeah. All the cute computer who wore tennis shoes. Oh man.
I heard Don Knotts was a nightmare on that set. Just saying. That would be
hilarious. But yeah, Kurt Russell, they should just make a new Kurt Russell's around, make a new Kurt Russell Disney movie. That would be hilarious to do. But look, they're inefficient with money. They've allowed activism to take over the company. The only way to fix it is to do a Twitter style purge where you get rid of everybody. And you're going to get rid of good people when you purge, but you can rehire them. That's what happened at Twitter. When they fired a lot of people, they then re-interviewed people that they fired and said, oh, we actually really need you. And you seem down with the future of the company.
Speaking of being irresponsible with money, I got to get through these super chats real quick.
Sorry about that.
So No Money G for $10. Ripping them a new one, boys. On the road, we'll have to catch the replay. Thank you, No Money G. Good to see you. And we got a couple from Mr. Tickle Trunk right here for Canadian $5. My favorite part of the Disney art Chris pukes over is that it looks like a New York suburban sitcom cast of quirky characters that you just want to die. And then Mr. Tickle Trunk for another $2 Canadian. Disney is adding all the paint into one can now. And then for another $2, Disney is a can of gray paint, bland and boring. And finally, we got another 199 super chat from Ace Yeager. To quote Gary, POT's people of talent are necessary. Indeed. Mm-hmm. All right, guys. So we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank you all for coming by, and be sure to check out our Wedding Singer review. It's our celebration of me and Jude getting married, wrapped into one of Jude's favorite movies, which is The Wedding Singer. But I want to thank everyone for being here today in the chat. And before we give everyone a shout out there, I want to go around the panel and get final thoughts and where people can find more of you. So Odin, what's going on your channel, and do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, so final thought would be on Wish. I unfortunately did watch it, and the only good thing about it is Alan Tudyk's voice work for the goat. There's a goat in the movie, and Alan Tudyk does the voice work for it, and that's the best thing about it. Everything else is bland and forgettable. But you can find me at OMB Reviews on all the various social media platforms, and of course on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble. And I will have a box office breakdown tomorrow, and it's looking like it's going to be another Disney catastrophe, and not looking good for a lot of these major studios and major brands. So check me out over there.
By the way, links to all the panels' YouTube channels are in the description of the video, as well as links to the articles we covered. Tom from Midnight's Edge, any final thoughts, and what do you got going on over on your channel?
Shoot, I don't even know. I'm sure Andre will throw something at me at some point here. Otherwise, we generally do a countdown show on Sundays now, where we count down our top 5, whatever it is we decide that week. This week we're doing Kurt Russell films. Since Nick Weiser is our guest, he got to pick the list, so we're doing a top 5 Kurt Russell movies this week. Otherwise, I'll be heading over with what?
That's sweet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, that's cool.
No, that's cool. I just didn't hear what you said. Otherwise, yeah, I'll be heading over to Pop Culture Minefield here in a little bit to talk Oppenheimer, and I'll be on Flashcast later as well, probably.
Yes. What is the best Kurt Russell movie, and why is it Big Trouble in Little China?
There you
All right.
go. After Stargate, sorry.
Say that wasn't the one I picked for number 1, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, The Thing. That's probably his best movie.
Still not the one I picked.
There's something about Big Trouble that I just love. All right.
Snake Plissken.
Yes. Chris Gore, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I walk away for a minute. We're ending the show. I could go another 2 hours. Come on. Please subscribe to Film Threat, my YouTube channel, along with Alan Ing. We do 2 live streams a week. There's plenty of videos you can catch up on. So that's all I will say. And just thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. I one last final thought. I'll say this, and this is what I said to the people who reached out to me who worked on Wish, is that people in the industry need to start speaking out. They need to start speaking out. There is a climate of fear, and every person who emailed me said, please don't read because I said, can I read this email? Obviously, I'll keep your name and anything that would identify you private, but I think that people want to hear what you have to say. People need to start speaking out in the industry. It can't just be YouTubers speaking out and then the trades sort of throwing a bone to like, oh, I guess it's safe to talk about the decline of Disney. Bullshit. If people don't start speaking out, there will be no Hollywood. There will be no industry. And look, it's not as if it can't happen. There are plenty of entertainment types of industries that have collapsed. I'll give you an example. The drive-in. In the 1960s, at their height, there were 6,000 drive-in theaters across the United States. Based on the weather, sometimes it was seasonal, but there were drive-in theaters. Now they number less than 300. That industry collapsed. And there have been like a little bit, a TV was going to kill the movie theater. A cable was going to kill the movie theater. Well, I will say this, between all of those things happening from the early days of cinema to now, the number of admissions has continued to decrease. And movie theaters have done a lot to try to save the industry. But right now, the industry needs to step up to save itself, because right now it's committing as a FNT, Mary suicide. Mary suicide is what's happening. But people need to speak out. All this stuff at Disney, there are people currently working at Disney that see this happening before their eyes. They need to say something. They need to be brave and say something. And veterans of the industry need to speak out.
Yep.
Because it has now reached a tipping point of, you're going to see this movie, and Odin, can't wait to watch you on Sunday. With this box office report, that is a disaster. A movie that cost $200 million, you make 10% of it back at the box office, and you're getting half of that as a return. No, you're terrible at spending money. You're looking at massive firings. If you don't speak out, there will not be an industry to save. Please make that, for all of your channels, make that a mantra and a message to the people, because I know I'm not the only one that gets emails every once in a while. I know Gary gets them. I know Drinker gets them. I know I've had people reach out to me saying, hey, do you have Gary's email or Critical Drinker's email?
Yeah, us
what
too.
am I, chopped liver?
Yeah, we had the same exact conversation.
Welcome to my world, man.
Hey, can you connect me? I'm happy to do it.
Hey, what's up, bro? You have Gary's number?
They're friends. Yeah, they're friends I have in the industry, and they're just like, I'd really like to say something. In fact, I know a friend of mine who's a screenwriter had a long conversation private with Drinker about things that are happening. But the people saying these things need to say something. They need to say something. The trends that are happening in the industry It's killing the industry. So there you go. That's my final thought. I thought it was just going to say goodbye and plug my channel. You got me. It's probably because Tom is here. He always gets me worked up.
Yeah, it's Tom's fault.
I'm good at that.
He does that. Yeah.
All right. Brian from the Popcast, any final thoughts and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, just one thing. I've been watching Chris Gore since the Olivia Munn days.
Yep.
And
Oh wow.
by the way, have you just always had white hair?
My hair started going gray when I was 19.
No, he had blonder hair when he was earlier.
I meant to ask that. Like, I'm literally watching like a skinny young.
He's like
version of
Steve
you
Martin.
Right, definitely skinnier.
On ATS, and I'm like, he still has white hair. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Well, it's great to be on the panel with you, my friend, and I'm glad to be here. You guys can find me at Popcast Live and the Popcast. Our next video coming out is we're doing the history of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka.
Nice.
Should be fun.
All right. Matt Vader 74. Any final thoughts and what do we got going on in the Salty Nerd?
Final thoughts are just kind of echo what Brian had to say. I just want to thank Chris for being on our little show and our little channel this week. I too am an old school Attack of the Show, G4 TV fan. I loved your stuff back then. I never thought I'd get a chance to just like have a one-on-one and chat with you. And it was really cool chatting with you at the movie thing we did earlier this year. That was a lot of fun. So thanks for being here, man. Your crowd brought it. We had a really good crowd in the chat today, over 300 people, which is a lot for us, so that was really cool. Hope you guys all hit the thumbs up and hit the sub button that came over and checked it out. Thanks to Odin, Tom, Brian, all you guys for coming in every week. Appreciate you all. This week, I think tomorrow we're releasing a little fun little discussion we had on a Disney movie back when Disney was good. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's retro we watch month for us at the Salty.
That's
Nerd
a good
panel.
movie.
So we all pick a movie pre 1970, and we watch it and have a good time. So that was a lot of fun. That's out tomorrow, and Tuesday we do this again from the studio on our Saltcast IRL show with Alex, our host. He joins us on Tuesdays. So
that's right.
And that's what we got going on. Thanks, guys.
Can I say real quick?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm fans of all of you. I appreciate it. And one thing I would say, Matt, if you could pair the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea with The Black Hole, which is effectively a space adventure remake of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, that would be kind of an interesting pairing.
It would. Yeah.
Definitely would.
I like both those movies.
Yeah.
Yes, and also I just want to remind everyone in the chat that we do live streams every Saturday and Tuesday afternoon. So if you guys like what you see here, just keep tuning in because we're going to keep doing them. Big shout out to everyone who gave us super chats this episode. We got Scotty Dub, Gavin Blackburn, Butter Biscuit 92, Fluffy Panda, Dr. Fauci's Prison Butt, Muscle, the Seaman, Eric Weinberg, Darth Maul's Lower Half, Shorty Short, Gary G, 52 movies a year, No Money G, and Mr. Tickle Trunk and Ace Yeager. Thank you all so much for all your support. We really appreciate it. And as always, guys, tune in next Saturday, same salty time, same salty channel, as we talk about more nonsense with a guest who has yet to be announced. But until next time, everyone, stay salty, my friends.